All right, what's going on, guys? It was quite the controversial day on Call of Duty Twitter yesterday. Let me try to give you a little bit of context first before I show you what happened. So, in competitive COD, there is a main pro league called the CDL. There's 12 teams, 4 players each team. So there is 48 total players in the league, and there is currently 0 female players in the league. And it is not because they are not allowed to be in the league. It's just because there hasn't been one that is good enough yet to make it into the league. So over the past 2 years, they have started a female-only Call of Duty League instead, and this is where the controversy begins. Now listen, I'm gonna try to be as respectful as possible during this video, but some of these people with these takes that I'm seeing on Twitter, man, some of these people just need a reality check. So I'm gonna just try to provide some facts on the situation. So first of all, let me pull up the tweet that started it all. I'm blocked actually, so I think I'll have to pull it up in incognito mode. Okay, so this is the tweet that started it all. This is from the official WXC Women's Call of Duty League Twitter. And as you can see, this video has 1.3 million views with a 31 retweet to 233 quote ratio. So that's when you know you're in for something good, when you have a very lopsided ratio like that. If we read the tweet, it says the M in Mizu season, that's the person's name, stands for MVP. Amazing insight from the WXC series MVP herself. And it's like a little interview thing here. We'll watch it in a second. If you look at the stats real quick, this is after the series. That is actually a 0. So they had a .096 KD in hardpoint, a 4.58 KD in S&D, and a 2.38 KD in control. Now, just for some perspective, if you're not familiar with like competitive stats, in the CDL, in the men's league, if you had like a 1.2 KD in the series, like that's very good. If you had like a 1.3, 1.4, anything a little bit higher than that, that's like absurd. That doesn't happen very often. That means you like popped off. You know what I mean? So to have a 4 KD and a 2 KD is like unheard of. Regardless, let me just play the clip and you'll understand what the controversy is all about here. So let's just give it a listen.
Well, honestly, like what it feels is like, especially like it feels like really good because like it shows like what we can do during like the whole like season. Because like in a way we don't really have like as much.
Okay, I think we I think we got the message that I was trying to convey. What she is saying is not really that important. Now let me just show you my tweets real quick. Okay, so here's my tweet. I actually quote tweeted their post, but then they blocked me, so you can't. That's why it looks weird like that. I didn't even say anything. Listen. I had the reaction that probably most people had when they listened to that clip. Like, you know what I mean? When I click on a post from the Women's COD League, and I'm like, oh, this is the MVP of the Women's COD League. Like, let me see what she has to say. And that person starts talking. This is my reaction. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, come on, bro. Like, what the hell, bro? You know what I mean? That's kind of the reaction. And I pretty much got blocked right away. I mean, this is posted at what, 6:25, and then I got blocked by 6:28. So, and that's with me like screenshotting it and realizing I'm blocked. So I think they literally blocked me within maybe 2 minutes. Now we need to get into the real conversation here, right? So obviously the controversy about all of this is that you have the MVP of this Women's COD League is obviously, if you couldn't tell, a transgender woman. So number one, let me get this out of the way. No one is saying that this person cannot choose to be a woman. No one is stopping them from being trans. The argument here is simply that a biological male who becomes a woman then joins the women's only COD League and is the MVP of the league, destroying the biological women. That is unfair. That is the argument that is being made here. Don't try to make it about anything else, because that's what these people like to do. They try to turn it into something else. That's not what it's about at all. Because we had professional players tweeting out, like, questioning what's going on here, right? Like, Sib tweeted this out. He said, so we have grown men playing in a female Call of Duty league. As you can see, it says the post has been deleted. I'm assuming his org called him and said, hey, moron, delete that. You know what I mean? We don't want to get involved in all that, because even though he deleted it, it was screenshotted and shared by pretty much everyone in the community, and people were pretty 50-50 on it. Half the people agreed, half the people were like trying to cancel him and say, oh, this guy should be kicked out of the league for saying that. He should no longer even be a pro. Like, we got to get him out the league, which is, you know, completely absurd. We also have a tweet from the owner of the Women's COD League, Alley Cat. She actually works for the CDL. She works on like the analyst desk. She provides some commentary in between matches or whatever. Trans women are women. The difference in performance between males and females in video games is cultural, not genetic. As you can see, a lot of engagement on this tweet as well. A lot of people agreeing, a lot of people disagreeing. This is where I would like to just state a couple facts about this whole situation. Number one, there is a scientifically proven by multiple studies genetic advantage for males when it comes to reaction time, and I would say reaction time is probably the only physical thing really involved in esports, you know what I mean? Because when it comes to real sports, obviously there's huge physical advantages for males. We're not here to argue about real sports. I don't even want to argue with people that try to talk about real sports. Like, you're just insane. When we're talking about esports, obviously it's not a physical contest, so there is some people, you know, that think, oh, maybe we should group them all together. But when it comes down to it, the fact is there still is, at the very least, a reaction time advantage provided to males. So you can't just claim it's just a cultural thing when there is still a genetic advantage. However, I do agree there is a cultural difference there as well, because obviously males, I think, are just more prone to be playing video games. That's just how it is. That's how the world works. So I definitely agree that there is some sort of cultural involvement there as well, but we cannot deny the fact that there is a genetic advantage as well. Besides that, I just want to talk about a few things here, man. Okay, we have to be realistic about it, okay? Number one, they have tried having female teams compete against pros in other games. League of Legends comes to mind. They had an all-female team try to compete in the Pro League, and they got beat by a record-breaking margin, worse than anybody has ever gotten beat before. That is just simply a fact. It happened in Counter-Strike as well. I believe I made a video about it like a few months ago. They had a women's league, and a transgender woman was the MVP of the league with the highest KD. I know it happens in Valorant as well. So there is a history of this happening across various esports, right? So that's just a fact. But just some other things that I'd like to point out here, right? Okay, there is nothing stopping a all-female team from competing in competitive Call of Duty against the males, right? You know what I mean? You could have an all-women's team. They could show up to challengers. There is an open bracket, basically, where all of the amateur Call of Duty players that are trying to make it pro one day compete against each other, and they prove themselves, and some of them get picked up into the Pro League, right? So there is literally nothing stopping these women from taking their team, going to challengers, competing against all the men, and if you really are as good as you say you are, you shit on all the men, you win challengers, and then you actually will get taken seriously and you could have a shot to go pro. But they're not doing that. They're only choosing to compete against other women when the owner of your league is saying that, you know, there is no genetic disadvantage or advantage, right? It's a cultural thing, apparently. I've been following competitive Call of Duty since basically BO2, but really like even a little bit before that, but like pretty heavily since BO2. I've watched over the years, and not once has an all-women's team ever went to the open bracket at an event, won, and got a chance to compete against the pros and actually, like, you know, done well. You know what I mean? It's never happened in the history of Call of Duty that I've been watching. I'm pretty sure it's never happened in any other esport as well. And that's just a fact. You know what I mean? So, like, if you really are as good as you say, then you have to prove it. Because as far as I'm concerned, I just don't think you are. And it's not like a personal thing, like we don't gotta like get mad about it. I'm not insulting you, but like, let's just keep it real, okay? Listen, I'm 30 years old. I got about 2 hours in me of hardcore gaming at this point before my hands start hurting. But if you put me in this women's COD league, I will be putting up prime Wilt Chamberlain numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like, my numbers are going to be going down in the history books, all right? They're going to be taking a picture. I'm going to hold a picture up with a little sign that says 75, because that's how many kills I just dropped on you in a hard point. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it real of how it would go. And I'm nowhere near a pro. I'm 30 years old. I got arthritis. But I'm just letting you know how it would go. So for you to sit here and pretend that you really have the talent to go pro in Call of Duty is absurd to me. There are only 48 professional players in the entire world. Another thing I think these women are not considering, which they might need to consider, is if this league allowed more transgender women to join, there would be no real women left. There's a reason it needs to be separated. And what you're doing is you're kind of muddying that line, and now you're not going to really be separating it as much. And I promise you, if you start allowing more trans women in, all the actual biological women will not be good enough to be in the league. I 100% stand on that, and I guarantee you that's what would happen. But if you look at all the quotes on the post that she made, it's all like men, well, not all, but like maybe like 25% of the posts are like men saying like, hey, how do I join the league? And if you start letting all these people in, I promise you all the biological women are going to be out the league. They're going to be unemployed. There ain't going to be space for them. That's just how it would go down. Now, whatever you want to attribute that to, if you want to pretend and cope and say it's all because of like culture or whatever, like that's cool. But I'm just letting you know the facts of how that would go down. So once again, like, I'm not attacking anybody in this video. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible, but at the same time, some people need a little bit of a reality check on the situation. So, you know, just to summarize my point, just to make sure nobody misunderstands what I'm trying to say here. Nobody is saying that you can't be trans. There's no transphobia involved. I hate that word. It doesn't make sense. Nobody's scared of this person. Like, you can't say like, oh, you're transphobic, like you're scared of Mizu season or whatever. Like what does that even mean? Like, you think if I saw this person, I'm gonna run away in fear? Like, what are we talking about? I just don't like the word. Regardless, anyways, once again, nobody is stopping this person from being trans. Nobody's saying they can't be trans. Nobody's saying it's a guy. Nobody's, you know, I think I was pretty correct with all my pronouns in the video. You know, I tried to be, you know, as respectful as possible. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. But like, we got to be realistic about the difference when it comes to esports. You know, it's not as big as real sports, of course, but there is still a difference there, and there is a reason the leagues are separated. And when you start, you know, stepping over the line a little bit, maybe a little bit of a gray area or whatever, it gets a little bit risky, you know what I mean? Because if you keep doing that, I promise you there will be no women left, and they are going to be all unemployed, and none of them will be playing competitive Call of Duty at all. I promise you that's how it would go down. So just something you might want to consider in the future before, you know, you continue down this path, because I feel pretty confident about that prediction on how this would go down. But, you know, hey, like I said, prove me wrong. You're welcome to enter one of these challengers tournaments, shit on all the men that apparently you're better than, and prove it. Until then, maybe stop with the delusional takes, because it's just very silly. So anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to leave a like rating if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already. Follow me on Twitter. Links in the description down below. Check out my last video if you missed it. Other than that, have a good day and peace out.